You want to get a little messy today? Let's pick apart one of the worst open marriages ever on screen, Tom and Shiv from Succession. Hi, I'm Genevieve. I'm polyamorous for 12 years. I do long form resources here, short form resources here. And in this series, I take a look at non monogamy in film and TV. What do they do well? What is messy and they get wrong, in my opinion? Let's get into it. Today's story is very much an example of what not to do. I cannot stress that enough, right? And I will give a quick content warning up front that some of the clips I'll show will depict emotional abuse. So if you don't want to see that today, I totally get it. If you are in a headspace for that, though, I do think there's value in seeing what these terrible people do to each other, if for no other reason than to see what emotional abuse in polyamory can look like. But I do also see some well-meaning people make similar mistakes. You don't have to be a monster to do some serious damage. So let's avoid ever becoming anywhere close to Tom and Shiv by seeing what we can learn from them. Succession follows the billionaire family of Logan Roy, a media mogul who's in his 80s, which raises the question, who's going to take over his empire when he's gone? He has 3 kids, Kendall, Roman, and Shiv. They all want the top spot and will ruin each other's lives to get it. And while this video is not about that fight for power, it also kind of is, because Shiv's attitude of, I'm going to get what I want no matter who I hurt along the way, she brings that into every area of her life, including her relationship with Tom. Now, Tom also wants the top spot of the company. So even though they're engaged and planning a wedding, they're also quietly competing and backstabbing each other the whole time, so it's a great environment to welcome new people. And another important player we're going to keep seeing again and again is Greg, because Tom develops a close relationship with Greg. It's technically a mentor-mentee relationship where Tom takes Greg under his wing, but it's really more of an abuser-victim relationship.
Would you kiss me?
What?
Would you?
Kiss you?
If I asked you to?
What, I
If I
kiss you?
told you to? Huh?
I don't...
Come on. I'm joking. I'm joking.
They just met. That is episode 1. But more on that later. Anyway, Shiv is not thrilled to be getting married at all, and eventually asks Tom, or kind of tells him, that they need to have an open marriage. But before we even get into how that open marriage unfolds, let's take a closer look at the events leading up to it. Throughout their engagement, Shiv has been working a career in politics, and she encounters her ex, Nate, working for a rival politician. Pretty immediately, the sexual tension between them is intense, and they are not trying to hide it. She actually seems to be pursuing it and fanning the flames of it. And she flirts with the idea of her betraying her own politician and going to work for this rival candidate so she can be closer to Nate. I think that really sets the tone for how she is not ideologically driven, not really. She is going to go where best serves her moment to moment.
What do you think?
I think, is it a good idea?
Yeah. Why?
Well, historically speaking, we found it quite hard not to fuck each other.
And predictably, as she and Nate start working together, things progress. So this is all going on in the background as we arrive to the night of Tom and Shiv's wedding. Nate is at the wedding, and Tom can pick up vibes. He can tell something is going on. And so before he says his vows, he asks her this.
Look, Shiv, is this real? Do you really want to do this? Because we don't have to.
And she says, of course, I love you, and then they say their vows, and then she comes clean.
Tom, I gotta tell you something. And I should have told you before. I've had a little number.
You had a little number?
That's how she tells him she cheated. And she can't even get out the word. She needs him to do the work of figuring out what it is she's trying to say.
Because I thought we were both grown-ups and we had an agreement.
Now, you might be wondering, wait, what agreement, right? I thought up until now, she was at least pretending they had agreed to be monogamous. This is where Shiv gets sneaky. A couple days before, at Tom's bachelor party, he calls to warn Shiv, hey, the guys planned something raunchier than I originally had in mind, just a heads up.
I got a feeling it's liable to get a little disgusting.
Tom, I don't think you're supposed to be telling me this.
No, I just wanted to flag it and, calm the qualms. And because I, for one, would never.
It's one night. We're both adults. Just enjoy yourself, okay?
Oh, Shiv.
Now, she again is being incredibly vague, right? But essentially, what they both are understanding and what Tom takes away from it is that she is volunteering the idea of a hall pass, of this one night, do whatever you want and don't tell me, like we're grown, it's fine. Now, at first, Tom is into it, it would seem, but he's obviously really stressed because of how vague it was. So he calls her in hopes of getting some clarity. Now, keep in mind, she had already been messing with Nate for like weeks up until this point.
Well, I just wanted to be clear in terms of you and me. Is this a quid pro quo arrangement? If I, for instance, if I touch a boob, do you grab a dick?
I don't know if
Just
that's
to get a rough chart of comparison, like from Fahrenheit to Celsius, or an eye for an eye, or orifice for an orifice. I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense of the parameters here.
Tom, I can't negotiate right now, but we know, right? We know.
Sure. We know.
She's staying vague on purpose, right? By saying essentially, I can't talk right now, but we're good. And Tom walking away, very unsure, wait, is she going to sleep with someone or not? It creates this smokescreen of plausible deniability for her own cheating, that she can just say, like she does on her wedding night, wait, I thought we had an agreement. But no, she created a strategic misunderstanding to have an out, to give herself an excuse later, right? That's not miscommunication. That's just being a shady liar. So Tom does go and hook up with someone at the party, but he doesn't seem to have loved it. And he goes to his confidant, Greg, to recount everything in graphic detail.
My God, dude! That was insane!
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, me and this girl, we go into the side room and we start making out, and then I'm touching her, and then she goes down on me, and then I splooge in her mouth, and I know, and get this, she kisses me and puts it back in my mouth, and I swallow. So fucking hot.
You can see how he's trying to convince himself, yeah, this was fun. This was good. I had a good time, right? I'm supposed to have had a good time. And at first I thought, maybe he just didn't like that particular act. That's not everybody's cup of tea. But it becomes clear that he's actually stressed. Wait, did I just cheat? I'm worried that I betrayed Shiv.
It's cool though, because it's like I didn't cheat. Just all the sperm stayed in my own body, like a closed loop system. So.
The mental gymnastics that people go through to say, this is still monogamy while consenting to hooking up with other people. Like, okay. But Tom was not cheating, right? He was in the clear for a hall pass. Unlike Shiv, who spent her quote unquote bachelorette party just in a hotel room with Nate, not thinking twice about it. So, wedding night, it all comes out. And after she admits to it, she says,
I'm just not sure I'm a good fit for a monogamous marriage.
Right.
You cannot tell me that it was an accident that she waited till then to share her real feelings, right? Because what's he going to do now? Go back downstairs to all their friends and family and say, never mind, we're getting a divorce actually?
But in terms of the relationship, I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity for something different from the whole box set death march.
The box set death march.
Yeah. Just a different shape of relationship.
Look, a lot of non-monogamous people, myself included, can relate to the idea of what she's saying here, right? Like that we don't want the typical monogamous marriage. And in general, I think it's also fine for a person to tell their monogamous partner, hey, I've realized something about myself. Like that's information that's necessary to know with somebody that you're very close to, right? But for her to link those two things, I cheated on you and betrayed you, and therefore I need non-monogamy. It's essentially saying like, I'm gonna sleep with other people, take it or leave it. So do you want it behind your back or in front of your face, right? Like that's not a real option. That's not a real negotiation. She's laying all of this out only after he gets in a position where it's harder for him to say no. That's like the definition of coercion, right? Like that is a yes under duress. He is agreeing, but I would not say that he is consenting.
And I just love saying the word wife. 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 Wife, 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 wife.
He is coping, right? And to be fair, she just sprang all that on him, right? That was like minutes ago. And now he's got to go back downstairs, look out into the crowd, see Nate staring back at him, and give a speech about why he loves her. Nightmare. So he is clinging to that title, that status of husband, clinging for dear life. And territorialism is a bit of a theme throughout, right? Where both of them will handle fear by just reasserting their position at the top of the pyramid, right? Like, I'm number one of the people who matter. And I'll get into in a bit who even gets to matter in this situation. But in this moment, Tom is feeling powerless, so he searches for a way to get his power back.
So I'd really rather you didn't drink anymore.
Are you kidding?
Excuse me, thank you. Put it back. Nate.
Come on.
Put it back, Nate. Put my fucking wine back now. Put it the fuck back. Here you go.
You know, I am not above feeling petty when I've been betrayed. You know, we are human. But essentially what he's doing here is he's taking it all out on Nate and knocking him down several pegs so Tom can feel in charge. And Shiv can be just as possessive. In the next season, we see Tom flirting with someone at a party, and Shiv is not a fan.
You know, I would suffer from the pressure, but I fucking love it. I really love it.
Hey.
You know? Hey! Oh my God!
Nice to see you
Oh,
too, Tom.
Nice to see you. Hey, how are? Why didn't you tell me you were coming?
It was a last minute thing. Hi, Shiv Roy.
Pleasure.
Would you give us a moment?
Like, hey, I'm the wife, I'm interrupting, so this conversation is mine now, right? Like, if I did that at a party, my partners might be questioning my motives, you know, because this is a sneaky, subtle way that territorialism can look, basically pulling rank and throwing your weight around. And their version of hierarchy, again, these are billionaires, you know, their version is probably much more severe and explicit than most.
I just feel like, okay, you know, if I'm the king and you're the queen, maybe it's fine to fuck the odd peasant.
Right. Yeah.
Because big picture, our plan is right on track.
Do you think they tell other people that they sleep with, I see you as a peasant? I mean, these characters are the worst, so they might actually do that. But do you see what I mean about coping by clinging to the idea of status? Him imagining himself above other people is his comfort blanket. And a lot of people who aren't villains can fall into similar ways of thinking, right? Because, well, we're socialized to think that way, but also welcoming new people into our lives is scary. And that's when we are most inclined to fall back on old social scripts and norms for comfort, right? But I really caution people that if it ever feels like somebody's worth depends on other people being worthless, or that like two people's safety depends on everyone else being less safe, people are going to get hurt, including the original couple, right? Like, and we see this here where Tom, imagining himself as king, does a whole lot of nothing to actually keeping his marriage in good shape. It's not in good shape, right? It is an illusion of safety. And his insecurities have gone nowhere. They are just starting to come out sideways in other areas of his life.
And I'm just wondering, like, would it be maybe interesting for both of us if I go work with somebody else for a little bit?
Sorry. Are you attempting to break up with me? Greg?
You know, being Greg's boss has been a position of power that he could count on until now, right? He did not think that would be questioned or changing anytime soon. But now Greg is saying he wants something different.
It could be like a business open relationship.
And he's like, not here too.
We're good. We're good.
We're good? We're good!
Can we?
I will not let you do this to me! I will not let go of what is mine!
What am I doing?
He basically terrifies him into professional monogamy. You know, Greg is not his protege now. He's kind of his hostage. Throughout the whole series, Tom and Greg are kind of a shadow relationship to Tom and Shiv, which is a pretty interesting choice. And it's how we continue to find out what Tom really thinks and feels because he sure as hell ain't saying that to his wife. I tried to think of a more eloquent title for this section, but I kept being like, how would I describe this family's communication? And the words piss poor just kept popping in my head, so I'm going with it. They are all in an ecosystem where no one talks about things. And I think that's important to factor in because one of them can't just decide we're going to be open and honest now. That requires other people, all of them, hopefully, to want that same thing. Shifting the tide and changing how we communicate is not some work that just one individual can do, I guess is my point. And we actually see Shiv's little brother Roman try to ask his family for a real conversation.
Look, if we come through this, is there a thing where we, talk to each other about stuff normally?
You want to talk to each other normally?
Okay.
You mean... Yeah, we can talk about the our feelings.
How am I the mature one here?
We don't have any feelings. What are you talking about?
They're running corporations, right? Like I can't get past that. It's also how I knew that Nate wasn't going to last very long because after they opened their marriage, Shiv could have kept sleeping with him. Tom would have hated it, but she doesn't care, So if she wanted to keep sleeping with him, she would have. But no, I think she ended it because Nate is way too honest.
And this wouldn't be a problem.
What?
The atmosphere.
I think as long as we have clarity.
Yeah.
Right.
Clarity.
And to be clear, at absolutely any place, at any time, with absolutely no consequences, I would fuck you and will want desperately to fuck you. And that is just a permanent state of affairs.
She asked about the sexual tension and called it the atmosphere, right? And he replied with a very clear, blunt statement of what he wants. And that was their relationship from start to finish, her floating some vague euphemism and him getting down to brass tacks. Contrast that with Shiv and Tom practicing kind of a form of don't ask, don't tell, and continuing to use euphemisms they'll talk about their encounters under their agreement rather than their new sexual partners in their open marriage. You know what I mean? It's that whole attitude of we don't discuss the unpleasantness. That ain't gonna cut it. We gotta know what everybody's doing. We gotta be on the same page,
So, how was your weekend?
Me?
Yeah. Anything to report?
Do you want to know?
Oh. I don't. Maybe later.
And I think choosing specific times, for the next few days, can you not give me new information because I'm overwhelmed, right? That can serve a purpose. Or not wanting specific details. Go to the party, I'll assume sex happened. You don't got to paint a picture, right? That all can be discussed. But blanket don't ask, don't tell of just not wanting to know anything at all. That I discourage because, as you'll see here, it requires people to actively lie and be lied to in perpetuity.
Who's that? Is that him?
Him who?
Him who? Look at you.
He didn't want to know, but now he does know. That's how it happens, right? We don't pick when it's don't ask, don't tell, when the info inevitably finds us because it's just a matter of time, some bit of info is going to get through. It's usually not on your terms or your timeline, right? She's also lying to his face, which isn't cool. He's asking her point blank to tell me. But also up until now, he was asking her to withhold that info. So what are the rules? Which is it? When they ultimately do try to be more honest, it's somehow harder to watch.
Thanks for checking in. And, I love you.
Thank you.
And do you love me too?
You can't just take my love and bank it and then take a view of the love market and see if you want to invest in me.
Uh-huh.
Like, ugh, it's so clear that money and business, like, that's the only world he really knows how to move around in comfortably, right? Like, this elaborate financial metaphor in place of real talk about feelings. Compare that to when he actually does try to speak more from the heart.
I wonder if the sad I'd be without you would be less than the sad I get from being with you.
The sad I'd be, he says, right? Now that he's trying to be more real, he only really has access to very simple language. And I'm not saying that, fancy words are somehow better. I don't think that. And I also don't think it's a problem to struggle to name your emotions. That is very human, right? I mean, specifically for Tom, I think it was probably done on purpose by the screenwriters to show this Ivy League educated corporate executive who can negotiate big business deals struggle to name an emotion more specific than just sad.
What is a person? It has values and aims, but it operates in a market. Marriage market, job market, money market.
At the core of this series, kind of over and over, is this dehumanizing question, who is a real person? Logan even says, what is a person? It has values, right? Like this stripping of humanity. We see this expanded upon when the whole family is gathering around a TV, watching a news expose on their company, how their company covered up all these different crimes. And some of the victims of those crimes, the corporate policy was to not even write down their name.
Times in these shadow logs.
Shadow logs.
Incident in RPI.
Yeah, that's incident, no real person involved.
And what does that mean?
That means it's a sex worker or a migrant worker at a foreign port, not involving a guest or a permanent member of staff.
No real person involved.
Like, it is not subtle. The show makes it very clear that this family only sees value or humanity even in a person based on class, social position, and or their own self-interest. Otherwise, they're invisible, like they don't exist, they don't matter. And that attitude absolutely impacts Tom and Shiv's open marriage.
You trying to bang me a bit?
Excuse me? I mean, I wasn't, but if I was, that would actually be under the arrangement. Okay. No?
Tom, I know her.
Well, you know of her.
Just use your common sense, okay?
Right, because I might say that, spending the night with an actor gonna play finance by your brother, not telling me for 10 days is a little bit awkward.
Come on. Mia's a real person with a face.
Fine.
Like a random actor from a party, well, he doesn't matter. So obviously, Shiv can sleep with him, lie about it, and then never call the man again. But this woman, Nia, well, she's real. She has a face, right? So obviously, Tom can't even flirt with her. And Tom obviously agrees with this value system, right? We heard it from him before. We're royalty and they're peasants, But I think we even see it more acutely with Tom when he is with Greg.
Nero and Sporus.
Nero and
Sporus. Greg, yeah. Sporus was a young slave boy. He was Nero's favorite. And you know what Nero did to him?
Nero and Sporus. This is not IP I'm familiar with.
Well, Nero pushed his wife down the stairs. And then he had Sporus castrated, and he married him instead. And he gave him a ring, and he made him dress up like his dead wife.
Wow. Plot twist. Didn't see that coming.
I'd castrate you and marry you in a heartbeat.
What do you say to that? Can you imagine your boss? I will say it's pretty fitting that Tom can only tell Greg he cares about him by bringing up the Roman Empire and comparing Greg to a slave. Like he's saying, you matter so much to me and I will hurt you and you don't get a say in it, right? Like you matter and you don't get to be a whole person. Now, I know these characters are kind of cartoonish, right? I've never seen these exact conversations this on the nose, but it does rhyme with conversations that I've seen in a lot of non monogamous spaces, right? Especially with some hierarchical couples. This idea that we assign your value and address your humanity based on your rank, and that can look like, they're just someone I hooked up with, their feelings are irrelevant, or they're just the unicorn, we're the real couple. Like that kind of thing of seeing the humanity of a person through the lens of how they will serve you. And if they are not currently serving you in a strong way, then you're not going to like treat them nicely, or like listen if they're upset. So that's my public service announcement. Just like don't be Tom and Shiv.
It's good to know we don't have an unbalanced love portfolio. I love you.
Succession is a story about cutthroat, classist, power mad monsters, but it doesn't glamorize their lifestyle the way that I thought they were going to, right? Like, you don't want to be them. You kind of are repulsed by them. And that was at least it for me, of just this like morbid fascination with how malformed a person's character can become, or like how depleted their emotional intelligence can get when they're insulated long enough from the consequences of their own actions. And with this example of very sick, very abusive non monogamy, I think it offers us a chance to look inward. Like, yes, hopefully we will never be as bad as them, And I'm always wary of like getting on a high horse because I think all of us possess the ability to hurt other people. And so, can we see, did any tiny part of us resonate along the way, or cringe because we relate or we did something that was a version of that, however small? Okay, that's good information, And can we approach that part of ourselves with some curiosity? Like, I wonder why, and see how we can meaningfully address it so that we can avoid acting like people we don't respect. So I'd love to know what you think and feel, if you love the show, if you are non monogamous, if you have an open marriage, if you relate to any of this or have seen it done somewhere, I'd love to know what your experience is. And otherwise, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time.